I don't like you anymore.
Nope.
You liked me yesterday.
Don't like you anymore.
All right.
Are we recording?
Yes, we are.
We're live. Okay,
It's
let's
so
do
good.
this.
Go ahead.
Fermented folks.
Hello, fermented folks. For the first time of the new season, Clayton and I are in the same room.
Mm-hmm.
Will we tell you the location of this room? No, because that would be probably bad for me. So we're not going to tell you where we are, but it's great. It's a great room. Hell of a room.
My goodness.
A lot of it. But we're bringing Fermented Fiction in live together in the same room with our friends Jeremy and Colin. Still on the West Coast shores, streaming. We got a good show for you today. We're going to talk about a wonderful movie. What are we talking about, Clay?
We're going to talk about a movie that did real well at the Academy Awards. We're going to talk about everything, everywhere, all at once.
Swept the Academy Awards.
Swept them.
Swept them.
Just absolute sweep job.
Going to get in some controversy, maybe.
My goodness.
One of us has to argue against it, so one of us is going to be fighting those Academy Award.
True chance.
Yeah, true chains.
One of them might mean it.
One of us might mean it.
Who knows?
But before we do that, how about a check-in? Clay, what you been up to?
Well, I've been up to kind of the same old stuff. Just always working on, my writing stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot to do. I guess my biggest update right now. So I don't know if you guys know Newsletter Ninja. It's a book about making an awesome newsletter. There's a Newsletter Ninja 2 as well by Tammy LeBroke. She is really awesome. She's a master of the newsletter. She's pretty much made her living off. I mean, she's an indie author as well, very successful indie author, but she's also made her living off just an amazing newsletter. So I've been taking some of her classes called Newsletter Ninja, read both the books. And she's really awesome because once you take a class or two and you get in her newsletter, there's a reason she is who she is, which is a newsletter guru. But once you get into her newsletter, you are constantly getting just amazing resources on improving your own newsletter. It's really helped me out. So I moved newsletter providers. I moved over to MailerLite, and I'm learning how to do onboarding sequences with automations. And that's really awesome because I finally got them to work. So now I have
Hell yeah.
dog. So now I have a four email newsletter onboarding sequence. When you join my newsletter, I don't have to send those emails out.
Right.
I have them all pre-written. I have some free stuff that people get. So it feels really good to now I know when people sign up to my newsletter, I got 8 new followers just this week. So I'm super stoked because all 8 of those people got my whole onboarding sequence and I can watch it and I know it's working and it feels really good. So that's my big update is I'm figuring out how to do newsletters less like a doofus.
All right.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. Yeah. As for my updates, I'm officially changing jobs and locations.
Heyo.
It'll be announced probably by the time this episode is published that I'm leaving my job at the University of Providence. No hard feelings towards that institution. Wonderful institution. Definitely, if you are a college hopeful listening to this podcast, consider them as a college. I am moving for personal reasons. Moving in with, hopefully, fingers crossed, moving in with my girlfriend if we can get a housing situation figured out. And starting a job in Bozeman, Montana. So
Bozeman,
Bos Angeles.
Bozo.
We should, for the record, state that 3/4 of this podcast did attend the University of Providence, so we can't hate on it.
No, we can't. No. I love
Can't we?
time.
If anything, we can more.
Or we pay more. I mean, you can go both ways with that. But Jeremy, we had a good time.
Yeah.
I had a good
We
time.
wrote a song about them.
We did.
With the
UBT.
for their uncommon courage.
UBT.
Took.
University of Target. UBT.
I forgot about Uncommon Courage, and that's a good thing.
But no,
Good
yeah,
update.
I'm leaving there, and I'm going somewhere new. But no hard feelings. It's a great school. I had a great time this year of work. It's just life is pulling me somewhere else.
Yeah. And now people from the University of Providence are allowed to watch the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yep.
think about it. That's like 6 or 7 more people that could be watching now.
At least.
Yeah, that's just the ones that are in housing,
Right.
six or seven on campus.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right. We're going to get to everything everywhere all at once, but before we do that, before we start forced enrollment, which do we have to still explain the rules of forced enrollment? I mean, I feel like
Well, you never know when people are new. It's pretty
true.
easy to explain. Low roll, go and tack it. High roll, go and defend it. Doesn't matter what we actually think. We're going to roll 2 d20s when I refer to roll. That's what I mean. Let's do it.
Yeah.
but before we do that, I want to explain everything everywhere all at once as much as one can explain that movie.
Yeah,
Oh,
you can.
I would like to add this, just as a general rule. We should also say this every time we do a podcast. I've been thinking about this lately. We don't do it enough. There will be spoiler alerts, major ones. Like, if you haven't watched this movie and you want to, do that first and then come back. Because we spoil everything we talk about. This show is designed to be listened to after you two have watched The Thing and developed your own opinion of The Thing. Unless you're like my wife, meaning you're a psychopath, who thinks that spoilers make movies better. It's okay. Like, it's okay to be wrong. If you're one of those people out there that's wrong, that's cool. But, like, just know that unless you're one of those psychopaths, then you should go watch The Thing first and then come back and listen to the show.
Or say in the comments below that you want a non-plot spoiler version of this show. We'll force Jeremy to edit the entire episode with all these little spoiler bot things, stickers, emojis over our faces and stuff anytime we plot spoil something.
I think that's a
It's your
I
plan.
think
If you want that, put it in the comments and we will force Jeremy to do it.
Yeah, I think
Hell yeah. We don't have to change our lives. We don't have to change your life, and only Jeremy gets f***ed over, and
Yeah.
he gives a shit.
just
it's
like we won't let
only
him
me.
talk right now.
Thank you, Colin.
I'll probably just post the update, and then that's the end of the episode.
Over Jeremy's word. Everybody
It's
gets
just, it's just
everybody
like
just-
this part and then just the end.
Yep.
It's 10 minutes for the whole episode.
Yeah,
in space. Let's rock, baby.
This is space.
it's right
right.
in space. My
So-
goodness.
Everything Everywhere All at Once is about a couple who run a laundromat. And it's a hard movie to like.
I was waiting how long into your summary you would
It's
have
such a
to.
hard to be like.
Also, it's hard to explain.
It's such a hard movie to give a summary for without. I don't know.
You made
So
it 6 seconds.
it's about a couple who runs a laundromat, and one of them figures out that there's a multiverse, and that if she doesn't do something about the multiverse, it's gonna like implode and end the whole world.
Mhm.
And also their daughter's involved. That's the summary.
Yeah,
Sure.
that'll do it.
I would argue it's about the mother and the daughter.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
But that's like plot.
Yeah. Basically, it's a family having trouble being a family.
With a multiverse involved.
Yeah, there's also
I
that.
don't think there's a lot to do with it.
Yeah, in fact, I think you did a better job than IMDb here, which is like, when an interdimensional rupture unravels reality, an unlucky hero must channel her newfound powers to fight bizarre and bewildering dangers from the multiverse as the fate of the world hangs in the balance.
Yeah, no.
I mean, that's not
no.
wrong.
Good job.
That's actually
It is
not.
less
Your
right.
summary was much better.
I did better.
If you start the summary of this movie with an interdimensional rupture, you've already missed the point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So Clayton and I are going to roll. We're using the same phone dice because I forgot my physical dice to roll. So you want to rock, paper, scissors for who rolls first?
Random number generator time. Oh my god, a game
D20.
for the game.
You got a 17, people.
17.
You got a
Snap.
17.
See it there?
Yep,
That's
yep.
pretty good.
Yeah, but what class are you playing though?
Yeah.
We are using my character Dalton Stallis, who is a human gunslinger,
Also known as Dallas.
also known as Dallas. All right.
Beautiful.
I got a nat 20.
Oh, snap.
Okay.
Oh, that's
20
going to
right
mess with the stats for sure.
D&D Beyond.
Yeah. How many nat 20s have we had? How many times has Travis won?
I don't know.
Not
Wait,
many. Not without the computer's help.
All right.
I
I
think
got what he's doing these days.
this is some
One of the
everything
net 20s
bagel
was
shit going on.
Yeah.
Everything
means,
bagel caused it.
No, the defender always goes first.
Yeah,
The defender.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Come on, bro.
You've
You've been
act
doing
like
this shit
you've
for
been here
10 years.
before.
All right. You ready with the timer, Jeremy?
Hey,
Give me the thumbs up.
Oh yeah, I will. So let's do this thing. Let's have some good old fashioned. We're gonna have a rumble in person. My goodness.
No,
You're doing the
we're
punch.
punching gloves.
This is-
I wanted.
Whew. This is some universe-ending shenanigans. In 3, 2, 1, go.
All right. So there's a reason this movie swept the Academy Awards. The performances, top notch. The cinematography, top notch. The general plot line, though I will say it is pretty simple, it benefits from being simple. It is a movie about family and about keeping a family together that sets itself in kind of an incredibly sci-fi centric, crazy interdimensional travel world, but it keeps itself with a really solid heart. And I love when a plot does that, when it says, okay, we're going to make this wild, wacky premise, but our plot and our point is going to be basic. And that basic plot and point is sometimes we get caught up in the monotony of life, and we think that it's a detriment to our like well-being and happiness, when in all reality, if we just face the things that we have in this world and love, we can realize how much happiness is around us in the current universe we live in, which I think is the beauty of Everything Everywhere All at Once, is that because it sets itself in these extra dimensional crazy universes, it lets you explore on a much more deep level of like, if there were an infinite possibility of realities, would you realize that your reality that you're living has happiness and has a reason to keep going forward? And I think that's what the filmmakers, and I'm IMDbing it because I always
Daniels.
Yes, the day.
the Daniels, thank you. I forget names constantly. I think that's what the Daniels were really going for, is like, let the audience realize that if they just take a second to actually analyze and think about the reality they live in, they'll realize there's some happiness and love in it. And they do that through this wacky sci-fi plot. But I think the script is phenomenal. It has one of my favorite romantic lines in recent cinema memory, and that is the Daniel Day Kwan, I think that's his name, right? Ke-Hu Kwan, says, in another universe, I would have loved to just do laundry with you. And that is so
Laundry attacks us.
so beautiful.
Great line.
And I think that's where I'm going to end my like opening statements. Is I think this, when you get a good script, a good concept, and a good cast, they all combine into just and good directors. All four of those elements combined, it makes for a hell of a movie, man.
Man. So at a birthday party, when he got a piñata, right? Piñata is a great time. We can all agree on that, right? Like, you've got your wacky, colorful creature,
Mm-hmm.
and then you got the part where you hit it with sticks, and then you got the part where the candy comes out. And all together as a sequence, that's a wonderful thing, right? But here's what I think about meh. You don't like piñatas, Colin?
No, I just wanted your reaction as a text logo.
Yeah, no, this movie is very meh for me. Here's why. About 75% of it was pretty much completely unnecessary. Fluff, pomp, frills. And I completely believe that. Now, first of all, there's really nothing new about this concept for it to sweep the Academy Awards like the way it did. Kind of blows my mind, actually. There are a lot of good other movies on the slate. And I don't quite understand why this movie was so overhyped. I think that it had some great performances. It has some great sequences. It has some cool ideas, but like nothing Rick and Morty hasn't done. Nothing Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy didn't already do. Like nothing new. None of this interdimensional rigmarole is new. Like literally, Rick and Morty did this movie already in his episode where Jerry was the star of what movie was Jeremy a star of?
I don't watch Rick and Morty much.
Well, Rick and Morty already did this movie, basically, is what I'm trying to say. I don't remember the episode, but Jerry is the star of a movie, and basically it's that whole thing where, like, if I would have made one different decision, I would have been a famous movie star, but I still would have met my wife. She was at the premiere, and blah, blah, blah. It's a Rick and Morty episode, people. I'll find out which one, but it's a thing. I'll put it in the comments. Here's the whole thing, though. Like, nothing new about this movie, first of all. Second of all, like, if you just watch the beginning and you get that conflict between the family, the mother, the daughter, that's what the whole movie's, like, trying to be about. But they cram it full of all this gratuitous action sequences, like, completely over the top, absolutely bonkers, like, absurdity, fight scenes and like graphics and like crazy confetti, people exploding into confetti and swords turning into dildos and like all these things. And I'm like, sure, whatever. It was very gratuitous to me. It seemed like I get the absurdity of the concept just from you explaining it to me. I don't need swords turning into dildos, but that was kind of like what the whole movie was. It was just way over the top for my taste. And I felt like, honestly, I could have fallen asleep from basically when the daughter gets introduced as the villain, once we know that, and then you can skip the entire middle of the movie, and then you can just cut to the ending when the mother and daughter have a great heart-to-heart. And the movie's like, hey, in case you didn't understand the whole movie, this is what it was about. Let's give you a little monologue about it, explaining it, because obviously you didn't understand it. Which to me also felt like talking down to your viewers, frankly. That's what it was. That's the entire, like, the last, like, dialogue between the daughter and the mother. I thought it was beautiful, but it was, like, comprehensible in this slurry of bullshit that the rest of the movie threw in our faces the entire time. And then they were, honestly, I felt like they were like, hey, just in case you didn't follow all of that shit that we just made you sit through for 2 hours, like, this is what we meant by all that. Oh, okay. And basically, that's what I thought. I thought at the beginning, nice, sentimental dialogue, family dynamics get established. At the end, nice, sentimental dialogue, family dynamics and character arcs get, like, concluded. But, like, everything in between, like, I don't know, like 90% of it could have just not even been there. It was, like, very gratuitous, very over the top, absurd, and usually I'm a fan of that, but I don't know, something about this movie's pacing, it was just, like, bonkers for me. It was, like, breakneck all the way through, so there was no, like, false victory. There was no, like, point where I thought they had failed at everything. I always knew how the movie was going to end, and it did end that way, so
I feel like I've been making this argument this entire season of, like, it's not a bad thing to be predictable as long as...
But you're all about pacing, and this movie's pacing was bonkers.
No, I think this movie's paced well. I think this movie is... If you understand the Daniels live in that absurdity, and I think it makes it better, because here's the thing.
Absurdity doesn't compensate for
the whole concept of, like, the family dynamic and everything is that a lot of arguments are absurd. Like, a lot of things you fight about are absurd. They just take that to the umpteenth degree. And I think that's the point of their multiversal travel, is like, okay, let's take this to the most extreme, where, like, basically we're going to turn the mother and the daughter into a superhero and a supervillain. And it's absurd and it's ridiculous and you're going to laugh at it. But, like, at the heart of superhero is two people who do not understand each other that just need to have a conversation. And I think that's where the pacing works, is, like, they introduce you to the argument. And then they say, yeah, this looks basic, but, like, think about your own relationships. At the heart of them, they look like basic arguments. I had an argument with my girlfriend the other day where it's, like, I looked back on it throughout the day and I was like, this is stupid. Why am I frustrated about this? I think that's what the Daniels did, is like, they don't understand each other. It's really stupid what they're fighting about and don't agree about. But let's like elevate the hell out of that throughout this entire arc. And then at the end, they're going to come back to the basics and they're going to say like, okay, yes, this is absurd. Everything doesn't fit in a bagel. We can actually like disagree and still love each other. And I think that's where it's well paced. And I do think it's paced well because there's sprinkles of comedy throughout. So, and again, it knows when to slow down. The reason I think that is like, yes, it's breakneck pace, but then the rock sequence. I was almost where you were at.
Shut up.
You're in the lead.
Yeah.
Man, that seems like it went quick.
We're the lead.
yeah.
Not yet. Colin, Jeremy.
What?
1, 2, or 3.
2.
3?
2.
Oh. Well,
Is that a Guinness?
here's
Yes.
what I think
That is also my beer of the week.
We grabbed beer from Travis's fridge because I'm in his turf and I surrender myself to the chaos. I'm also in this episode. Just surrender yourself to the chaos and let it rest.
Surrender.
Speaking of surrendering to the chaos, I'll be right back.
I'm gonna get my beers of the week.
Beer of the week.
Colin's gonna have all the good ones.
We're live, guys. We're live.
Jeez, oh, man.
Jeez Louise.
Go get your beers while we're doing the debate and you're not even in the fucking show.
Oh, shit.
I don't know, man. I think it's good.
Oh, shit.
Yes.
Hudson whiskey. Look at you.
Yeah, man. I'm picking up a bunch of this for my brother's wedding. But like, yeah. I said that, well, I didn't say it, mostly to myself, that if we talk about this tonight, then you know, that's what's been fermenting. Corn.
Okay. This just makes me want to do Banshees even more. But it doesn't qualify for this game.
No, it doesn't. It is not genre fiction.
It's not genre fiction at all. So good, though.
So good.
I don't know. I could
We're live.
finagle a claim. I'm good at that.
We can talk about Banshees while we're
waiting for Colin.
Banshees of Inisherin was the best movie.
Banshees of Inisherin is great. Oh, hey, what up, Colin?
All right, Banshees.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
And I mean, Jeremy's got whiskey. That fits.
Okay, Jeremy, talk about your whiskey because everybody knows what Guinness is, so we don't have.
We have Guinness.
Well, this
There you go.
is Hudson Whiskey, New York.
Oh.
Bright Lights Big Bourbon Whiskey. And
All right.
yeah.
Time for you to drink 22 ounces of that.
In honor of us being 4 days from St. Patty's Day, Sláinte.
Yeah. That.
Cheers, mates.
Staunch ball.
So, Clay,
Yeah.
what'd you actually think?
I was largely telling.
Wait.
Wait, other segments.
Be cool.
I'm so excited to be in person.
This is,
we are.
I know.
Colin,
I'm
It
rock
happens
hard
every
too.
time. Jeremy,
Yeah?
you can always just put this part out. You
can.
know.
Can I?
or not.
Will I?
All right, hold on one second.
Oh, Colin.
Goodness.
Fermented facts.
So anyway, Banshees of Inisherin.
Banshees of Inisherin. We can't talk about it on this show because it's not genre fiction, but we can talk about it right
While
now.
Colin's gone.
While Colin's
It is a brilliant metaphor.
Let me watch it. I'll finagle a claim. I'll find something that makes it genre fiction.
The donkey?
It could be classified as horror. There's
It is horrific.
there's some horrific
There is
elements
some
in it.
Yeah, you know, if you have horror elements, who's
I mean, there's
to say
literally
it's
it is about a banshee. Technically,
Kind of.
you can make the argument that he literally said, "I don't think the banshees call people to see anymore. I think they just watch and enjoy." And you literally have an old lady the whole movie who's like, "He's gonna die. He's gonna die," and they do.
That's
and she's back
basically
there
all banshees
watching.
do.
Like she is the banshee
Because she's
That's-
doing it at a
we could
reasonable
make that
volume,
Very
make it
strong
not a
argument that
banshee.
it is a horror movie.
You could.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Jeremy?
I was saying that's what banshees do. Just because she's doing it at a reasonable volume doesn't mean it's not a banshee.
That's what I'm saying.
But anyway, Colin,
Yeah,
what are some facts?
Fermented facts. We're back to
Fermented facts. Jeremy, run that transition, baby.
Yeah.
I need to make a clip of our transitions that we're doing now. Jeremy didn't even tell me he was doing these things.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I don't tell anybody anything. I just, stop when somebody
He
says
just does
stop.
them.
You don't tell everybody everything all at once?
I tell nobody
I'm
nothing
about to.
all at any time.
So The Daniels, right? This is a film brought to you by Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert, and they are just affectionately known as the Daniels. And swept, let's see, what did this movie, is this movie any good? Well, it won the Academy Award for Best Picture, Academy Award for Best Actress in a Leading Role, and Academy Award for Best Actress in a Supporting Role. And I have to scroll down because it won't even show me all the other awards that it got, which included Golden Globe for Best Actress and Best Breakthrough Performance, Spirit Award. I mean, I could go on and on. It won so many awards.
It won Best Return from the kid from Goonies, so that's good.
Absolutely slew it.
Ke-Huy Kwan's speech at the Academy Awards for Best Actor in a Supporting Role, all over the place. If you haven't seen it, you should just watch that clip because it's incredible. He's crying. He'll make you cry, If you need to feel something with your, Clay's heart of stone, of clay, if you will, he just needs to watch that clip and then he'll understand.
Yep.
My fucking movie sucked.
Hey.
So
Or did.
basically, the film also, the film swept the awards. Everybody, at the at various award committees of all kinds, said it was amazing, and it also has a lot of similarities, as Travis referenced, to other films. The Daniels have done other films, like Swiss Army Man. That when I saw that, I was like, oh, now this is making more sense. A bunch of other films in that genre. Included would be A24, which comes up a lot. That's the production company of this movie and a bunch of other movies that you've probably heard of as well. So it was very much a collaboration, and the people who worked on it usually worked with those producers and this production company and have quite a history behind them. So it wasn't just sort of a flash in the pan kind of movie. There was a lot of work behind it by a lot of talented people who had tons of experience.
Oh, yeah.
And that's your Fermented Facts.
Woo! Fermented Facts.
That's some good
Thank you,
facts.
Colin.
Jeremy.
I'll also say there's a bunch of homages to other films that those very actors and actresses have been in as well, and things that influence this movie too. So things like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, things like The Matrix, animation and animes that are related and referenced specifically. So there's a lot in it.
Was someone in Ratatouille?
I don't think any of the actors were in Ratatouille,
I
but
don't
They
think
talked
so.
about it.
But I'm pretty
Dan
sure
on.
Randy Newman voiced
Oh,
the raccoon.
Rakakuni.
Yes, raccoon.
Ratatouille.
Rakakuni.
Classic.
Absolutely wonderful. My goodness.
What are your notes, Jeremy?
Oh,
You
I've
have
got-
notes.
Yes, I do have notes in my traditional this, which feels very appropriate right now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. So what
It's-
I've
it's-
yeah. Well, I guess one note can be like an additional fermented fact. The Daniels also directed the music video for "Turn Down for What." If you've ever seen
I did
it.
not know that.
Are you serious?
Yes.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't seen this video.
I mean, you'll probably want to. It has the whole premise of the music.
I mean,
video
the
was
best thing to
people
do it is
humping
to send it
things
to
and
one
they,
another in the
like,
middle of the night.
Get destroyed. Like humping things
Okay.
and they break. So, but imagine.
I mean, having heard this
this.
song, I never felt the need to watch the video.
And that's, shame on you for that.
Don't worry, I'll text it to you at midnight tonight.
For what?
Yeah. Turn down.
It's really good to just leave running on people's computers,
You'll want that. So,
especially if they're at work.
so I've got notes. It's great. First note was just that, this is one of the few films where, like, it's silly on purpose and it's good. And it very much works for everything that's going on. I think Travis kind of nailed it that the But the silliness it's like a friggin' metaphor for how arguments are like blown out of proportion until everything's dumb. You know? Yeah, I think you know. Ooh, and this also has something that this is another note. This also has something that I really don't think I've seen in any other medium, which is like the actual representation of angsty versus acceptant sort of existentialism, or something I like to refer to as the infinity paradox, where like if you have infinite realities, infinite possibilities, and the initial response to that is that nothing matters because everything's out there. You're just a tiny speck on a tiny speck, total perspective vortex, so on and so forth. And so, yeah. But then, if you think through that a little bit, you reach the acceptance stage of that, where if nothing matters, that must also mean that everything matters equally, so that the only things that truly matter are the things that matter to you personally. And that's pretty all right.
As a theology nerd, Mahayana Buddhism.
Yeah.
Mahayana Buddhism is a big, I call it positive nihilism, but that's not even close to what it's actually officially referred to as.
No, I always referred to it as optimistic nihilism, and I got that from Ford Prefect's kind of take on the world.
Yeah.
Like nothing matters, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely got that from this for sure.
The closest actual religious term I've read to that is Mahayana Buddhism. Their whole thing is like all of this is pointless, and that's what's beautiful about it.
Yeah. That's pretty good. And I guess, my only other note about this is that, yes, it is very Rick and Morty-esque. Like, there are very clear vibes, possibly inspirations, of Rick and Morty in this. But, in a way that's not depressing as balls. Which is how Rick likes to play things.
Oh, you mean Dan Harmon didn't write it?
Yeah, go figure. Then yeah, them's the notes.
Them's the notes.
We did it.
Good boys. Good segments.
Solid.
It's called that Rick and Morty episode is called Rick's D-Minutes.
Yeah.
And it is it's where Jerry's a movie star, but it very, very similar idea there. But that is only one of the many dimensions that our characters in. So I guess it's time for me to talk about what I actually think.
Yep.
There's a lot of truth to what I said. As you guys already know, a bit of a stickler when it comes to over gratuitous action.
Yeah.
Don't like it. Like dialogue, like words. And so there was a lot of that. I feel like a lot of the movie was, if there's 3 fight scenes in a row for me in any movie, that's why I don't like Marvel movies. I'm like, okay, I get it. What are the characters actually doing here? You're fighting. Cool. Got it. And the verse jumping, it's kind of a cool concept, and it really cements that absurdity factor of the movie. But I think they spent a little too much time, almost trying to solidify it. And this is something I didn't get to in my counterpoint. But they almost tried to make it make sense. And when you try to make absurdity make sense, obviously that defeats the purpose. So I didn't really like that. How they were like, no, but you have to do this because of this, and it's the improbability factor, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you don't have a whole novel to tell that. So just, and I think they did a pretty decent job of it overall, but I don't know. There was some of that seemed a bit gratuitous to me. A bit of gratuitous fighting scenes and a bit of gratuitous explaining, but not really explaining a verse jumping, which kind of annoyed me and I think took up some screen time that was a waste of time. However, I think it was a great metaphor for the absurdity of arguments and how they degenerate into something that nobody really understands. because almost anytime you look back on an argument with like a partner or a loved one, you don't feel good about like where you were angry and where you like made an ass of yourself. You almost always make an ass of yourself in some form or another, and you're almost always like, why did I?
Yeah.
What's my problem?
What was the point?
And then there's also you also tend to, you know, be like, why doesn't my partner or my loved one get this thing? You know, like, why don't they see eye to eye with me on this? Like, I literally can't comprehend it. And there is a level of that expressed through the medium of this absurd sci-fi adventure and interdimensional jumping sequences. So I thought that was pretty cool. And I do mean what I said, though. Like, the beginning of the movie and the end of the movie, I thought they did a really good narrative arc thing. And the arc was like this instead of like a nice, even, like, loop, you know? But it was all over the place. And I don't necessarily think that was a bad thing. I think it lent itself to the medium really well. But I really did love the ending. I thought they did a good job of like wrapping up the message. That was where I was mostly lying, saying that was a bad thing. I thought that was a good thing. I didn't think it was talking down to the audience. I think it was necessary because the movie was bonkers and balls to the wall. And that was really fun. And I think it was important that we like make sure people know, like, oh, but at the end of the day, this is the message. And that's not talking down to people. That's just making sure your message arrives home.
Yeah.
And tying up a story usually takes some level of that. And I think that's what, like, for example, Snow Crash didn't do. You know? Like, Snow Crash was just like, the book's over. And you're like, oh.
Oh,
okay.
It's just, we're
And-
okay.
This movie, I think, did a good job of that.
Yeah.
I also think something I would have mentioned if I would have rolled high is that I think it was also a good take on sort of like generational misunderstanding that's inherent in, like in the new world with social media and stuff. Like, it was a really good take on that. Like, the older generation trying to just like cope with the amount of shit that is just constantly being smacked in people's faces. Like when the daughter first meets her mom in the hallway scene where she kills the cops with the dildos and the confetti snaps and stuff. And she's like, seriously, you're still upset that I'm gay? Like, we're gonna have to get past that
I just
right
right
now,
5 people.
because this is gonna get way weirder than gay.
There's
and it was
5
like,
people. You care that I kissed a lady?
yeah. I literally just turned guns to dildos and made somebody into confetti, and I brought a pig, and like we're talking about this. And I do think that all the time with like when I confront, or not confront, but like interact with anybody who like still has a problem with that. I'm like, we gotta move past that part.
Yeah.
We gotta.
Sounds like somebody missed a software
way
update.
past that. That's like from the 1800s. That thing. We gotta get past that. There's a lot more happening in the world right now. We're merging into like a global conglomerate. We gotta figure this shit out.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a good example of those like conflicting generational viewpoints kind of being forced together by the internet in the modern age. So that's all I got. I overall did enjoy it.
I would agree with that. I would agree. I agree with everything I said mostly. In the interest of being honest, I have 2 criticisms to this movie. I love this movie. I think it's fantastic. I think it is an excellent film. I agree with everything I said. I think the Daniels did a really good job of making. I also didn't get to talk more about how hilarious I think it is. Like the butt plug scene is. I have not like laughed out loud in a theater for a long time, but the butt plug trophies, I was fucking dying.
Dude, Chekhov's butt plugs.
God, so
Chekhov's
good.
dildos. Definitely.
But I also didn't get to finish my point about I think the pacing was good because just at the point when I was starting to think like this is too much action, I'm getting bored, they threw in the rock scene, and the rock scene slowed it down and had us like.
I didn't like the rock scene.
Oh, I love the rock.
You wouldn't.
Hell.
Or
Right,
you didn't
right.
like the rock
We'll
scene.
get into the rock.
Fine.
Idiotic.
My two criticisms to this movie are A, I don't think I'm going to watch it again. I don't think the rewatchability level is very high.
I'm 100%
I've got the
watching this movie again. I'm making
I don't think
watch
no.
it. It's great.
Yeah.
B,
Speed Racer.
Yeah, this is some Speed Racer bull.
B, and this is okay. B, and this is where I'm going to get into like a rant a bit because this is my primary problem with the Academy Awards. Not only was Jamie Lee Curtis not the best supporting actress of the nominees, so she was the worst supporting actress of the nominees.
Whoa.
You had Angela Bassett, Terry
Tag her on
Conlon,
this.
Stephanie Husa, sorry, I can't pronounce that name, Han Chow, all of them put in better performances than Jamie Lee Curtis. Put that aside, the real best supporting actress of the year, in my opinion, got snubbed. And that is, if anyone's watched Women Talking, Jessie Buckley should have won. She was absolutely phenomenal. I'm using this platform to say, go watch Women Talking and tell me that Jessie Buckley did not do miles better than Jamie Lee Curtis. Anyway.
What, you mean the Oscars got it wrong?
She did okay. She's barely in it. She's not that
pretty major.
She's a pretty major role, but I don't.
Yeah.
She wasn't the best supporting actress of the year.
I haven't seen Women Talking, but I thought Jamie Lee Curtis did a pretty good job.
Okay. Well, anyway, I think she got a pity Oscar. That's one of my. That's one of my.
I think so
biggest
too.
criticisms.
On Twitter.
Jamie, I've heard you're great. I've heard you're a wonderful
Hell,
person.
lady.
I think you got a pity Oscar. Anyway,
I think you did good,
Wow.
Jamie. I think
but I do. In all honesty, my final thoughts are: I think everywhere all at once deserved praise, deserved the recognition. I think it is a wonderfully written movie.
not as good as Banshees of Inisherin.
I agree with that. Actually, I don't think it's as good as Banshees of Inisherin, but I think it is worthy of an Oscar. I think it's
And Oscar.
I think it's a wonderful metaphor for the relational differences, the generational differences, as well as kind of relationship discussions and problems.
Also a very representative film.
Very
great.
representative film.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
And Ke-Hu Kwan,
Hugh Kwan slaps. He earned it.
he earned.
He earned
So
it.
glad he came out of retirement for this one.
So awesome, dude. He was great.
Oh.
And I mean, he played like 9 people in this.
I also love too how his character is reason. Like he's in the metaphor. You have the two people of the argument who are like absurd in their beliefs of like we don't understand each other. Ke-Hu Kwan plays reason. He plays like none of this matters. Like, all that matters is that we love each other and like why can't you get that? And I really liked that.
It all comes down to that line. That one line he delivers. That's pretty much his whole character.
Mm-hmm.
It's just in another universe. And that was the best line in the whole movie.
So
like,
good.
hands down. In another universe, I would have loved just doing laundry and taxes with you. If that's not love, then I don't know what is.
I don't know what it is. My God. So
Yeah.
good. But
What did you guys think?
You hated the rock scene.
Colin, of course, hated rock
Yeah,
scene.
of
Colin,
course he
your thoughts
did.
on-
Well, all these guys are stupid, and you should read my blog that I
Oh
don't
my
have,
God.
saying how this film is everything wrong with modern day Hollywood.
This
No,
film
I-
is? Okay, yeah, why?
Yeah.
Fermented
No, this
Fiction 2.0.
film is really good, but the only the biggest criticism is of like, you know, it's like when someone does a really good job, but then they still get a bad grade on the paper because they read the wrong week that it was due, and so it was on the wrong topic. The villain in this is the everything bagel. Like the superpower of the villain is an everything bagel.
That's hilarious.
in an Oscar award-winning Best Motion Picture of the Year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fantastic.
Yeah,
It's a black hole, Colin, and
Oh, is that what it
everything.
is?
You know?
it's a black hole
well,
kind of, Colin.
maybe you don't get that. Maybe you should read it.
I
Travis
didn't get it. The film was so awesomely philosophical. It was so weighty in its emotionally capturing production that I just missed the bottom point that supports this whole thing.
You're saying
there's
that
no
in a
support for this whole
sarcastic
thing.
voice, but yes, that's right.
But I mean, yeah, that's what happened. Bud.
Hot
I mean,
dog
hey, if
fingers.
you don't like the rock scene, I just want to know why you don't like the rock scene.
No. Here's the thing. Okay, here's my real thoughts.
So hold
So-
on. You went on record as none of those previous thoughts were your real thoughts.
It's more complicated than that. Obviously, it's too deep for you.
Just
like this movie.
I just don't get it. I'll read the blog. And then,
Yeah, you want
The-
to read the blog.
Okay,
Continue.
so Shakespeare, back in the day,
Oh boy.
Shakespeare ended his career by writing tragicomedies. He tried to fuse the two, really all of that stuff. Everything that he wrote was either a tragedy or a comedy. And that goes all the way back to the ancient Greeks. And no one remembers his later plays, which were tragicomedies, where he tried to combine the two, because they just didn't work. They fell so flat. And anyway, I don't want to get into it. But the same thing is in this film, where when I watched it, I felt that there was a lot of comedy that was hilarious, and there was a lot of fantastic acting with deep, profound levels of emotion and relationship between these characters. And you can't have both in the way that this film had and still have it stand up as like a masterpiece storyline. So in other words, like it's like you need stakes. You need things to have importance, and you can't have importance if the main disaster that the villain is using to threaten all life across the multiverse is an everything bagel. Or you want to display like you're displaying how various all of these multiverses are by having hot dog fingers, where the main character is now a lesbian with Jamie Lee Curtis, and they have hot dog fingers, and sometimes they explode with ketchup and mustard on each other. Or you have a raccoon that is controlling a guy, which is clearly Ratatouille, and then right after that you have the moment where like Raccacoonie. And then right after that is the moment where you have this, beautiful scene where they're professing their love for one another and how they would do anything for one another. And it doesn't matter if this is throwing everything off. So like, there's just no stakes. It's like nothing, you're saying the point that nothing matters, which is why everything matters to you personally. But I think nihilism is a stupid freshman philosophy cop-out, and really, if you have a reason to get out of bed in the morning, you're not a nihilist, because you have these things that you care about. You don't want your family murdered by certain people. That means you have a value system. This film has a lot of points that are made, but it very much undermines those very points and a lot of it, and it can't really decide. Like, it's very much a film that is tragedy and comedy squished together, unclear as to where we're supposed to rate those or how and everything else. So I was very torn.
There's where I would disagree with you, though, and I again
absolutely.
can't help but bring in the religious studies views of this. Of like, I think again, I compare it to Mahayana Buddhism, is that it's not that the pointlessness of not the pointlessness. It's not that the end being suffering, like the world being suffering and tragedy is the point. That's not like, I think the everything bagel is actually a threatening villain, because she's trying to move the whole world towards that, to say like, this is reality is suffering and pointlessness, we're gonna go and just embrace that and be done. That's nihilism. Mahayana Buddhism says, yes, life is suffering and that's the cycle that you're in, but your whole purpose in life is to break out of it. That's where Buddhism is. Like Buddhism's whole point, that's the goal, is that the world you live in is a world of suffering and consistent sorrow. Break out of it and achieve something higher. And I think that's what the Daniels are getting at, is like the villain is that endless suffering, that everything bagel, that black hole. And through love and through service to one another, they actually move away from that and find purpose in the suffering, which is the world. Because it never says that the everything bagel isn't built of real reality.
See, like, I mean, you have to invoke Mahayana Buddhism in order to make this film make sense. But the film doesn't have anything that is
I'm gonna
concretely
have to go ahead and disagree
Buddhist.
with both of you.
But more importantly, here's the thing: I think the film is not necessarily Buddhist. It's much more absurdist.
Yeah, it's definitely absurdist.
You know?
And I'll tell you exactly why I disagree with both of you. Not necessarily on the philosophy. I'm sure you're perfectly correct. I don't think you need it as a lens through which to view this movie, and I don't think that the everything bagel is really the villain, antagonist sort of thing, because the everything bagel, as it sits in the film, seems to be it is the concept of like giving into the nihilism, the depression and stuff, and it is the threat of suicide, which is what the mother is fighting so hard to prevent with her daughter. You know, strip everything away. That's just exactly how it plays out. You see it in the beginning of the movie, you know, with the interactions with the parents and the grandpa and stuff, and Joy, she says to her girlfriend that like she just kind of wants to die, and it's played off like she's kind of not being serious, but that's then what the entire movie is about, where everything's just way too much and she's just being swallowed by just everything everywhere
Existing.
all at once. Existing is just way too much, and yeah, so that's where I'm at. It makes it a very compelling movie.
No, and I would agree with you. And
I agree with that.
I think the point that I was going to make is that through the lens of Mahayana Buddhism, I have a different appreciation for this movie, but I think art is a way for those deep philosophical things to be expressed in a much more digestible way. And I think that's what this movie does. You don't have to know that it's related to those concepts that I think it's related to understand that it's about the don't give in to the infinite suffering of the world, because it's too much. And if you think about it too hard, it really does consume you. And that's like kind of the heart of a lot of Buddhist belief. I don't believe that way, but you know.
I don't know Mahayana Buddhism at all. I don't know a lot of philosophy, frankly. But one quote I always come back to is because, you know, partly because it's from my favorite storyteller, but I also just think it's very true. It's there is one story at the end of the day, largely, and that's the human heart at war with itself. That's a quote from George Martin. And he says everything else is just furniture, referring to genre, referring to setting, referring to characters, referring to everything. But at the end of the day, like the human heart at war with itself is the story we all end up relating to on some level or another. Like Jeremy related to it on one way, Colin related to it on one way, Travis on one way, me on another way. And I just think that's so true. And I think this movie is a great example of that. Because what I saw in it, I'm going to be honest, I barely noticed the suicide thing. And they kind of played it that way. Like, and honestly, now that you say that, I remember it. And I find it kind of genius because that is kind of how suicide goes. If you aren't a person that's really close to the person who happens to commit suicide, which, you know, probably everybody on this podcast has been in some way or another, then you don't even see it, you know? And in a lot of ways, that's really interesting. And I think, yeah.
I think that this film is very good, and it, especially in terms of acting and in terms of editing, you know, the what was it? There was a video that I watched that was this guy talking about how the Bohemian Rhapsody film got a pity Oscar for editing, and he tore into
That wasn't
bad the editing was in that film.
It wasn't even a pity Oscar. That was just BS.
It's like they had to give it an Oscar, so they gave it the editing one.
Bro.
It makes no sense. And this film, what's incredible is that they take an absurdist story with absurdism heart and center, you know, Camus style absurdism, and they edit it so it works. Because trying to make a story that makes sense, but the point of it overarchingly is chaos, is super hard. And I think they fantastically pulled it off, making that middle section of the film, like jumping between all of those. First part is everything. Second part is everywhere. And in everywhere, they use all the stuff from the previous part, and it would make no sense if you hadn't got the first part. So very much the storyline and the editing of the film all makes sense, which is so important for a good storyline. But I think one more thing, which is that her name is Joy, and there is a very heart and center suicide portion of the story. And I just feel like the absurdist comedy of it just took it too much away from that heart and soul that's at the center of, like, here's the meaningful message that's pushing this, that's driving this story. And the character who is struggling with suicide isn't the main character. And I feel like she should have been.
I have a major problem with saying comedy detracts from tragedy. It certainly does not. Good comedy can be amongst the most tragic medium of all time. But
hot dog fingers. You're
focusing too much. You're focusing too much on
the not comedic. It's absurd.
And honestly, the thing about the end of that movie is they all come to the same realization at the same time across all the universes, and that love means the same thing in every universe, and that's kind of an important point of the film, regardless of hot dogs. Like, that's just like getting over being gay, dude.
I agree.
Like, get over it. Like, get over that.
As an editor for this film, I would cut the hot dog hands, because it takes away from all that.
Love is love.
The hot dog fingers add. The point is that it's too much, and it, like, kind of breaks her brain when she encounters, like, oh no, like, this.
Yeah, that's the point.
I'm gonna go in and I'll cut out all the hot dog finger stuff, and the movie will be a lot better for me.
For you, man.
I mean,
that's a keeper. You need it to be in there.
That it'll be better for you personally.
Nobody can argue with that. Only Colin can make that decision, and that's his decision. Wow. But I do. It was a great point what you made there, Jeremy. I just wanted to agree with you on that. And like I was saying, the story I saw more above even the suicide angle, which the suicide angle was a big part of this story, but was the mother and daughter just trying to understand each other at the end of the day. Like, that was the story that stood out the most to me, I guess. And I just think it's interesting, the different parts of the story to stand out to different people. And that kind of reinforces your point of, like, whoever's watching the movie, that's the story that's going to come out. And a good movie can be a good movie to a million people, you know? And so on that basis, like, and it can be seen as a good movie through a lot of different lenses. And I think this movie accomplished that in a pretty profound way.
I think that's exactly what speaks to it being an Academy Award winner, and where I think it deserves it, though I will agree with you, I don't think it was the best one on the docket, but is that pretentious quote that still is used throughout all of, like, literature and stories is, does it say something about the human condition? And I think our entire conversation has proved, yes, it resoundingly says something about the human condition, and in a very unique way, and that's hard to do. Also, one last point. that's maybe dumb to end on, but
Good.
is that in the same year that Marvel tried to do a multiverse movie, this movie did it on a smaller scale and did it a million times better. And I really appreciate that.
Marvel sucks.
Well, I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I don't agree with that either.
I think Marvel does some things good, but they didn't even come. They're trying to launch their whole multiverse project, and an indie movie from A24 was like,
is it
take a seat.
A24 still indie?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
A24 is fucking huge.
To us.
To
us.
the world.
I'm telling you right
They
now,
have made so many movies.
they are not blockbuster.
Like
Everything
100%.
So it was popular is not a blockbuster. It is an indie film.
Like, this movie only got made because it was funded by the Russos after
It also
they did
didn't-
Infinity War and stuff.
It also did not make a ton of money relatively. Like,
Yeah, I guess I
that's
can
where
see
I'm
that.
saying, like, we know a lot of these films from A24 because we study this shit, but, like, it's still indie.
I don't know. I think most people know a lot of movies from A24. A24 is huge.
I would argue against that. I think they know
It's-
like big.
I mean, it's not Warner Brothers. It's not, Disney. It's not MGM.
People
But
I don't know if I'd call it indie. Like, this isn't your local film fest.
It's
They know.
movie snobs who know.
Well,
big ones.
So, I mean-
No, I doubt anyone. Not very many people have seen The Whale.
yeah, you don't think so?
I haven't seen The Whale. No one I know has
I
seen
heard
The
of it
Whale.
just now.
You just heard of it?
Yeah,
Brendan
just
Fraser
now.
won an award for it.
Well, isn't that lovely?
It is.
Good for him. He's
Hey, I haven't
great.
seen it either.
Go for
But it made a splash.
Still
they
indie.
say.
Still indie.
Yeah.
I did. The Witch was A24.
Not a ton of people have seen The Witch.
Really?
Less than you'd think.
Yeah, I guess I'm a horror junkie, so.
Exactly. We watch these things.
A24's made a million movies. They're all really good.
It's very good, but
Yeah.
they're not watched a lot.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So there you go.
Debate in the comments.
Have you watched? Do you think A24 is indie?
Yeah, is
that's the
A24 indie? Because look,
Pedro, let us
there's
know.
like, how big do you have to get before you're not indie anymore? You know? That's a good question.
That is a
Yeah.
good question.
And A24 is on that bubble. I would say A24, if anybody, is where the bubble is.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you are still indie and you're A24, then you're going to be indie for a long time.
A24.
Because A24's made a lot of movies.
A24 is
Yeah,
the
they're
big
the
league.
line. If you
Yeah,
get
I went to their
past
website and they're like,
A lot of good movies.
here's
24
our
is
24 upcoming movies.
Huh?
I went to their website and it was like, here's the upcoming 12 films that we have.
Dude, they make so many movies. They made
Like,
like
they're making like a film a month.
yeah, they do that. And they've been doing that since like 2012, if not longer.
That doesn't mean they're not indie.
No, but I don't know. There's a certain level. Yeah. But like, what is indie then? Like, are you just not indie if you're Warner Brothers or like the three production companies like in book publishing? Like, if you're not Simon & Schuster, Penguin Random House, or Macmillan, then you're indie?
Yeah,
Film with film.
basically.
If
So
you're
it's like
not,
the same
if you're not
as
a,
book publishing?
if you're not a blockbuster, huge, make the millions, like people are going every weekend.
Yeah, if you're
movie,
not like with Warner Brothers, Disney, or Paramount or whatever, then yeah, you are indie.
I guess so. A24 is pushing it. You tell us in the comments. Is A24 still indie in your opinion? I don't know. I guess I'd like to think they are, they're repping the indie scene. Super good if they are. Good for them.
Yeah.
they have high standards.
They have a ton of money too.
Yeah,
and they
high
have
standards and a lot
major
of-
partnerships.
They have
Like,
high standards. And
yeah, I guess when I think of indie, sometimes I'm thinking like there's also like a money barrier before you're basically one of the big studios too.
Yeah.
Like A24 to me is basically one of the big studios.
they're the big studio.
Like
for the
if
little guy.
if I wrote a movie and A24 picked it up, I'd be like, I made it
They're
to the
the-
big time.
they're the
I
big-
made it to A24.
they're the
Let's
big-
go.
they're the-
That's big.
They're the big studio for the little guy because they have high standards for quality.
Yeah.
they're not going to take a Transformers 5.
No,
Let's none of us take that.
just because they won't do
They're select.
just for pure money, they won't do a movie. That makes them indie. Like, are they not still a mega studio?
In the conversation, that makes them more indie. Whether or not that's definition-wise,
Indie just means independent.
I know that,
I
but in
know, but I'm
film-
just saying. At what point do they become
I
one of the
think we've
major big
lost the
studios? I don't think we have. At
No,
what
I-
point do they become?
I think we've lost the
major studio.
We're
conversation.
in stupid argument land at this
We're
point.
tangenting.
You're stupid, Colin.
We're in a different universe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, how many beers?
Oh, yeah.
Colin, how many beers?
You're not stupid, Colin.
No, I don't
4.
think you're stupid.
4? Why?
That's not very many.
Because you need one for everything, one for everything, one for everything, one for everywhere, and 2 for all at once.
I think you stole my rating. I was going to say 3. 1 for everything, 1 for everywhere, and 1 for all at once.
So
Okay,
like you
Jeremy.
drink them at that time, like
Yeah.
so you just
One per part.
one at the beginning, 1 in the middle, and 2 right when the credits roll.
That's the irony of it.
Huh. Okay.
Would you call that absurdist?
I'd call that a bad plan. Oh wait,
Drop
wait.
the headphone.
Drop the mic and
Yeah,
the headphones.
Yeah, you
all
dropped the
at
headphones when I said this, but no, I'd just call that a bad plan.
once.
Jeremy, what's your rating?
I would say I would do I would crack one open and just enjoy. Cause that's yeah. You know?
Throughout.
Yeah.
Clay, you heard mine. Mine's Collins, basically. But with -1 beer.
I think you need like 5.
5?
And I think you need like 1. You're going to crack one at the start. You're going to be watching this laundromat scene, and you're going to be like, okay, this is a nice little slice of life. And then you're going to start getting to confetti cops and dildos and butt plug nominations and all the absurd shit, and you're just going to start slugging them back. And that's what I
3?
did. No, I'm slugging them back.
I know that's 1, but you said 5, so that's 1 and then 3 and then 1 is what you're saying, or no?
I'm saying 1 and then 4. Just like
In
repetition. Just so that you can ride the absurdism. And then by the time you get to the final dialogue between the mother and the daughter,
Crying.
you'll be ready to cry.
In your
Yeah,
beer.
you'll be fully prepared for the crying you're going
Yeah, you'll
to
be
do.
crying straight beer back into the bottle, and then you can drink it one more again for all at once.
You'll be a 70s country artist crying in his beer.
There was a moment where she kept flipping back between all the multiverses, and I was like, I wonder if this is what having ADHD kind of feels like.
It's not unlike that.
I
I felt that way like a few times. I was like, man, this is
I will
an
say,
ADHD kind of movie.
one of the most genius villain introductions I've seen in a long time is when, like, you see the back of her head and there's the people tied up and they're bleeding, and then, like, she does the tick, 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 and it's like 3 different
So good.
universes, and she ticks back.
I mean, like,
changing
I
color.
was like, oh, that's
that was
good.
cool.
That's
yeah, a lot of this film lends itself to great acting. You know, like a bunch of actors have to play multiple characters and just do it physically. No CG.
And a lot of the editing was amazing. Like, just lots of little details. Like, I noticed in that scene you're talking about, like, all her fingernails are changing color the whole time. It was really, really interesting. Yeah, it was fun to watch. Yeah, there we go.
This has been Fermented Fiction.
And boy howdy did we ferment that.
In the
Make-
comments, please
Make
tell
sure to
us
wear
whether or not you think
2 headsets.
is indie.
Yeah, is A24 still indie, or has it just become one of the big guys?
Yeah, Pedro,
Maybe
let us know. I know we haven't talked too much this
in the
episode, but
Pedro, let us know.
Pedro, I'm sure you got opinions on this.
yeah.
Has Pedro been in an A24 movie?
I don't know.
Yes.
He has to have been,
Probably.
because
but,
they're
like-
so big.
They can't afford him anymore.
Because they're too indie? Shut up. All right. That's good. Hang it up, Jeremy.
All right.
Goodbye, everybody.
I'm hanging it up.